to change her mind. He just wanted her to see him, not as a uniform, not as a race, but as a person who had given everything for his country. But before he could say another word, the woman did something no one expected. The entire crowd hold their breath. The woman's expression shifted, her eyes narrowing as if searching for something. Weakness, hesitation, doubt. But the soldier stood firm. The air between them was thick with tension, the weight of their words pressing down on the silent crowd. Then she stepped closer. Her voice was quieter now, but just as sharp. You think wearing that uniform means you belong, that you understand what this country stands for. Her words dripped with something more than anger, pain, maybe even fear. The soldier didn't look away. Instead, he took a slow breath and responded with something no one expected. I don't just think it. I know it, because I've fought for it. I've bled for it. And I've seen brothers and sisters, people who look like me, people who look like you, give everything for this country. His voice wavered for the first time. Some never made it home. A hush fell over the crowd. Even the older man, the veteran, dropped his gaze, his jaw tightening. The woman blinked, her lips pressing together as if holding something back. But before she could speak, someone else in the crowd finally broke the silence. And what they said changed everything. From the back of the crowd, a voice rang out, firm, clear, and filled with emotion. I lost my son in the military. The words cut through the silence like a knife. Heads turned, eyes searching for the speaker. A woman, middle-aged with weary eyes and trembling hands, stepped forward. Her gaze moved between the soldier and the woman who had confronted him. My son fought for this country, she continued, her voice unsteady. He didn't care about race. He cared about the people standing beside him. And he died believing in what that uniform stands for. Her eyes locked onto the soldier, and something in her face softened. When I see you, I see him. I see his sacrifice. The older woman, the one who had challenged the soldier, shifted uncomfortably. For the first time, the fire in her eyes flickered, replaced by something else. Doubt. Conflict. But she wasn't ready to back down. That's different, she muttered. Your son was different, is the way some people choose to see it. The weight of his words settled over the crowd. And then, just when it seemed like the moment couldn't get any heavier, the soldier took a step forward and said something that made everyone's breath catch. The soldier took a slow step forward, his eyes never leaving the woman's. His voice was steady, but filled with something raw. You don't have to see me as American, he said. But that doesn't change the fact that I am. That doesn't change the sacrifices I've made or the oath I took to protect this country, including you. The crowd held its breath, waiting for her response. For a moment, the woman didn't speak. Her fingers clenched the strap of her purse, her lips pressed into a thin line. Then, just as it seemed she might turn away, she exhaled sharply. My husband was a Marine, she said, almost to herself. Her voice wavered, but she pushed forward. He fought for this country, too. And he didn't come home. The words hung in the air, heavy with a pain she had carried for years. The soldier's expression softened. I'm sorry for your loss, he said, his voice quiet but sincere. But do you think he would have wanted this? To see division instead of unity? To see people judged not by their hearts, but by the color of their skin. Something in the woman's face broke. Her shoulders sagged, and for the first time, her anger seemed to fade. She looked around at the crowd, at the veteran, at the grieving mother who had spoken up, and then finally at the soldier. Her mouth opened as if to argue, but no words came out. Instead, she simply nodded, a small, almost imperceptible gesture, but enough to say that something inside her had shifted. Then, just when the tension seemed to ease, the unexpected happened. A young boy, no older than 10, stepped forward from the crowd. He had been holding his father's hand, watching everything unfold with wide eyes. Slowly, he let go and walked up to the soldier. Without a word, he saluted. The soldier blinked, visibly moved, and returned the salute with quiet respect. The crowd, once tense and uncertain, erupted into soft applause. The woman, still standing there, wiped at her eyes, as if overwhelmed by everything that had just happened. She didn't say another word. She simply turned and walked away, leaving behind something she hadn't expected, a lesson she would carry with her forever. But instead, what he did next silenced everyone. His response was so powerful, so unexpected, that even the woman herself was left speechless. The moment was raw, emotional. You could feel the weight of his words, the depth of his heart, and the strength of his character. By the time he was finished speaking, there wasn't a dry eye in sight. Even those who had been mere bystanders found the soldier took a deep breath, his eyes steady but filled with emotion. The woman's words had cut deep, but he wasn't about to respond with anger. Instead, he straightened his posture, the American flag patch on his uniform catching the sunlight as he looked her in the eye. People around them leaned in, waiting for his reaction, expecting a heated argument. But his voice was calm when he finally spoke. He started by telling her his story. How he grew up in a small town, raised by a single mother who taught him the value of hard work and respect. How he had dreamed of serving his country since he was a child, believing in the ideals of freedom and unity. He spoke about the sacrifices he and his fellow soldiers had made, time away from family, sleepless nights, and moments of danger most people would never understand. As he spoke, the crowd grew quiet. Even the woman, who moments ago had been so sure of her words, seemed to hesitate. There was something in his voice, something real, something undeniable. But she still wasn't ready to back down. And then he said something that made the entire crowd hold their breath, themselves caught in the emotion of it all. What exactly did he say? Stay with us, because this is a moment you won't forget. The soldier took a deep breath, his eyes steady but filled with emotion. The woman's words had cut deep, but he wasn't about to respond with anger. Instead, he straightened his posture, the American flag patch on his uniform catching the sunlight as he looked her in the eye. People around them leaned in, waiting for his reaction, expecting a heated argument. But his voice was calm when he finally spoke. He started by telling her his story. How he grew up in a small town, raised by a single mother who taught him the value of hard work and respect. How he had dreamed of serving his country since he was a child, believing in the ideals of freedom and unity. He spoke about the sacrifices he and his fellow soldiers had made, time away from family, sleepless nights, and moments of danger most people would never. As he spoke, the crowd grew quiet. Even the woman, who moments ago had been so sure of her words, seemed to hesitate. There was something in his voice, something real, something undeniable. But she still wasn't ready to back down. And then he said something that made T. Soldier's voice remain steady, but there was an undeniable weight behind his words. He looked at the woman, not with anger, but with something deeper, understanding. "Ma'am," he said, "I stood beside soldiers of every background, every race, every belief. And when we put on this uniform, we don't do it for ourselves. We do it for everyone, including you.